Today we are going to try to attempt to answer a very simple question, and that is, what is wrong with Fender's Paramount series of acoustic guitars? Stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas, and you can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. If you want to support the channel, visit our Teespring store, link below for custom swag, and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. It's also linked in the description, and new episodes are coming soon. So when I say what is wrong with Fender's Paramount series of acoustic guitars, what I mean by that is you guys don't like them. And I want to kind of break down why I think these guitars continue to struggle in the market. And it's an interesting conundrum because if you think about it, it comes from arguably the biggest guitar manufacturer in the world. They make probably more acoustic guitars than just about anybody, maybe close with some other companies.
Yeah.
You know, their electric guitars are sought after, well respected, and range in price anywhere from $200 to $2,000 and more. And they continue to have no problem moving up market with their electric guitar series. But try as they might, they are struggling to move up market when it comes to acoustic guitars. And you are actually in a unique position to talk about this.
Yeah.
Mr. Owner of a custom shop acoustic from Fender.
And I love that guitar so much. When I saw this one, that kind of has a similar aesthetic to a certain degree. And I'm like, they're back. Let's go. And it's hard to pit a, custom that I spec'd out versus a, just normal Paramount. But they've proven that they can do it really well.
They have. And so if you don't know about those, let's remind the guitar buying public that back in 2012, 2013, around that period of time, Fender did a line of custom acoustic guitars that were built in the same factory that Guild was made in at the time. Back then, Fender owned Guild. Along with a bunch of other companies that they no longer have and spun off. And so effectively, they were custom shop guilds.
It was the Ren Ferguson special, which is part of what made them fantastic, I think.
Yeah, if you don't know who Ren is, Ren Ferguson has had a storied career in acoustic guitar design, worked at Gibson, worked at Guild, went over with Guild to Cordoba. Made some fantastic stuff. But those two, despite being fantastic guitars and priced to undercut similar guitars in the market, they struggled. And Fender eventually discontinued the line. So if you have one of those out there, you actually have something that might be worth quite a pretty penny, because that tends to be how valuations go. Something that wasn't popular and they made few of, people find out about, and they become popular again. If this video helps with that, you're welcome. But it came to the point where when you look at the Acoustasonics, Fender effectively said, we're going to stop chasing that upper end acoustic market because we're not making any inroads. For a company as big as Fender to come to that conclusion, I think speaks a lot more about the guitar market than it does about the instruments they were putting out. Because to talk about the guitars like the one you have, those were effectively handmade, high-end, American-produced acoustic guitars, nitro-finished. I mean, they were great. There was a Dreadnought we had that I loved. It was an Engelmann spruce top with mahogany back and sides, nitro-finish, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And one of the earliest videos I ever made for Alamo Music, I covered up that headstock and said, if you didn't know what this was, you'd want this guitar. And the minute you see Fender, you have an opinion. And that's a problem. So before we talk about these guitars, I think I know how this story went, but I want to ask you. Your custom Fender acoustic was stolen.
Yeah.
You got it back.
I got it back.
And it was in a pawn shop?
It was in a pawn shop, yeah.
And how much were they asking for it?
They had it for $150. because they probably just looked
They had
up
no idea what it was.
Yeah, no idea.
So they just like, oh, there's this Fender acoustic guitar, $150.
Yeah, they didn't notice that TKL case and the certificate of authenticity and all that stuff.
I'm so glad you got it back.
Yeah, me too. I still play it every show, every day almost. It's my favorite, right? And the thing is, I've turned a lot of people with that guitar because they'll play it, it sounds great, it feels great, and they're like, man, this is awesome. I never knew Fender could do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, they can do whatever they want, but they are choosing to do something different.
Well, and they're choosing it because I think there's the guitar players, look, you are a curmudgeonly lot, and I say that as one of you, but we tend to be very stuck in our ways. We have opinions about companies, we have opinions about countries of origin. You know, I find it interesting that someone will have a very, very strong opinion, and I do get it. I support American manufacturing, okay? But you'll say anything made in China is garbage while you're using your iPhone made in China. Like, manufacturing in other countries, particularly with technology where it is today, is not the same as an import guitar from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if 70s, 80s, even the early 90s, you know, technology has come away where consistency and quality is definitely there if a company wants to, you know, produce a quality guitar.
Yeah.
But in that same vein, you look at a company like Fender, and they are known for building their electric guitars. They don't have the reputation like Gibson does of building acoustics and electric guitars, right? Because it wasn't part of their history.
Yeah.
And that's it. The guitars that were part of Fender's history in the past were value-priced, value-oriented guitars. They weren't super high-end. They weren't trying to compete with Gibson and Martin and stuff back in the day. And that seems to just be what has caused the problem that we have.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree. And I think, I'm trying to think of an example of another brand that has been successful in crossing over to something that they weren't a storied manufacturer of. But it's tough because most of the ones, like Martin did it with electrics, they didn't work out, you know.
And even younger companies have struggled. So one might say, okay, well, you look at Gibson, you look at Fender, you look at these companies that have a very long history, and they're seen as maybe more traditional and they would struggle more. Okay, Paul Reed Smith came out with electric guitars in the 80s, and they have acoustic guitars, but they really, really try to lean into like higher end guitars, and were having trouble making inroads. And so they now have imports and very few like private stock acoustic guitars that you can have built. They basically said, okay, we are not going to try to chase Martin and Taylor and stuff in that market. They made a similar decision.
Yeah.
And I've played those guitars. They were phenomenal guitars. We just talked about the higher end Fender guitars were fantastic guitars.
Yeah.
So all of that, I hope, paints a picture of why I think these are an issue. What's wrong with these? So let's talk about the Paramount series. This is the third iteration, I think.
Makes sense, yeah.
All right. So what Fender has done is, okay, we want to go kind of mid-up market. And what I mean by that is a guitar that's not made in the United States, that's made of all solid wood and retails for less than $1,000. That's actually becoming a fairly crowded market. Whether it's coming from China or Indonesia or Mexico or whatnot, that's a fairly crowded market. A lot of manufacturers are trying to hit this kind of sweet spot to give you a lot of features, give you solid wood construction for less than $1,000. And so these are what, around $800?
Yeah, I think they're creeping towards the 900 to 1,000 mark.
Yeah.
I think that you and I should start a TV show called Extreme Makeover Guitar Edition go to every different manufacturer, because I think we could walk in and be like, here's what's wrong with these. But before we get into that, I will say that when it comes to guitars in the price range that compete with it, I think Guild has one of the best holds on the made in China, designed in America kind of market, and most of them are at least $100 to $200 less than these are. And then you look at Taylor and Martin, Mexican-made stuff, unreal. And then if you jump up a little bit more in price, Taylor, so look at Martin 15 series.
Taylor American Dream series.
Yeah. Taylor and Martin, and then Yamaha, a little bit more red labels from Japan.
And you've got Gibson doing the Generation collection that came,
Yeah.
it's all like that. $700 to $1,500 is becoming extremely crowded.
Very
with
crowded.
a lot of competition.
I think just right off the bat, if Fender found a way to manufacture these in the United States and charge $1,300 for them, they'd probably sell more. That's a stupid bet to make if you're Fender, but a lot of people come into the store or online or whatever, they want something American made. And so they will choose the Gibson Generation Collection, even if they don't like the guitar as much as something that's made in China, wherever, because they want that legacy name on the headstock, made in America.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's part of my thought. But also, I think with all those competitors, it's hard to justify when you associate Fender acoustics with CD60s and FA125s. It's hard to see, well, they're made in the same factory probably. What's the big difference between this one and a FA115 or something? I don't know.
Well, and I also have a feeling, or I have an opinion, that I don't think the marketing has really been behind these as much. They've continued to kind of revamp them. Again, I think this is the third iteration. I may be wrong on that. But they've come out, and they've done some marketing, but certainly not to the extent that they do with some of their other lines. And I think knowing that it's not their bread and butter. And so when they did the American Acoustasonic Telecaster, say what you will, Gumby-looking guitar, whatever, it initially found a niche, $2,000, U.S.-made, acoustic, but not. Yeah. So it's appealing more to their electric guitar customers that they already had, rather than trying to find new acoustic guitar customers. You know, they say that it's like 90% easier to sell to your existing customers than it is to find new ones. Yeah. And so I think that may have been part of it. And I'm just speculating here. I don't know what the inner workings of, you know, Fender's corporate mind is, but from being someone that's part of the guitar community and a dealer that deals with so many different manufacturers, sees successes and sees failures, there tends to be a consistent thing. So here they've revamped these. They've come up with some really nice vintage-inspired aesthetics. I'm holding the PO 220E. There's an OM, a Parlor, and the Dreadnought in the line.
Yeah, the Parlor I think is the PS. This is the PO, and this is the PD. Yeah. And they have the various finishes and wood pairings. So this is the all mahogany. There's, I think, a spruce and Ovencall and a spruce and mahogany.
You can get natural finish, you get sunburst. Yeah. Yeah.
Right off the bat, good call on the tuners. They feel nice. They fit the look, I think.
Are those branded?
These aren't.
Yeah, see, these are also not branded. Like, if they were branded Grovers, we're going to do a tick of everything that we think would improve these guitars. Yeah. So, starting from the top,
Grovers.
If these were Grovers, that would improve it. Would it change the price? Maybe you eat it to get market share. I like the inlay, and it looks like it's actual abalone and mother of pearl. Satin finished on this, which looks stunning.
This is a gloss, and I like the satin finish on the headstock there. But on the body, I don't love the open pore on that guitar.
Yes, I'm going to agree with you. Well, let's go down the neck first.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead of her. Bone nut.
Yeah.
Right choice there. Okay.
Good call. I mean, inlays look sharp. It's like the Martin 15 snowflake kind of thing.
Yeah, the manufacturing process on the inlays and the fretwork is really, really good. The binding is really good. There's higher end guitars from other U.S. companies that I would say are not as good as this guitar. All right, action on this one is a little high.
A little high for me. This one was set up better,
yeah.
I think. You know, it was easier for me to play this one. I think the toughest part is where, you know, I brought up the finish on this one, the open pore, that I'm not a huge fan of. This kind of look here with this mahogany with the super gloss poly, this is like the look of an import guitar to me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard to get over that because that's what it is, but that's the one thing that I think alerts me to this is not a American-made guitar.
Yeah, I suspect that the finish on there is thicker than it really ought to be. And yeah, I mean, and that's it. You know, unfortunately, that's indicative of most import guitars. If there's one consistent thing that I would say imported acoustic guitars need to improve upon, it's that gloss finished acoustic guitars tend to have too thick of a gloss on them, which inhibits the resonance of the guitar. And the reason for that is because it's faster to produce. If a manufacturer over there figures out how to do it in a faster way and a thinner finish that's still high quality, immediately the instruments should jump out as better.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean they'll always gain market share. Your guitar alone is proof of that. So
The backstrip and the purfling and the rosette on these guitars, I think it's a bold choice.
they call it feathered, I think.
I do not think it draws people in.
Well, it's supposed to be a take, I guess, on a more traditional rope-bound / herringbone style marquetry, and it actually is inlaid. But yeah, I get your point. Like the spoked,
It's a little
and
too much
feathered
to me.
is maybe a little too much. Go with one or the other.
And the last thing for me, Josh pointed out, he had many a complaint about the pickguard. And I think, it's weird because on some of their lower end acoustics, you have this shape, and on some you don't.
Yeah.
I think just go with the classic.
Now, Ted liked the tiger striped pick guard itself, but yeah, I think we're all agreeing. I mean, they did the design in order to have something that's unique and speaks to this is their guitar. I get that. It's it's a personal preference. I don't have huge issues with it, but it's not also like, oh, that's a great pickup or pickguard design.
It smells good.
Fishman pickup system in them, which is honestly, I mean, it's in most guitars, particularly at this price point. So.
Yeah, the Fishman's nice. The big, one really nice thing is that they both come with a good hard shell case. So.
Yeah, and that's something that you're seeing less and less of in guitars in this price point. So you get a hard shell case and you get a humidifying, I forget what that product is even called.
The old puck?
No, it's the long snake one.
The tube.
Yes. But I can't, I'm having a brain fart. I'm getting old.
It's that tube, dude.
But you know what? I really like that. I wish more guitar companies would do that. I applaud Taylor for educating people on humidity, but very few guitar companies provide some aspect of humidifying your guitar with the guitar purchase. So that's really great.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this. You played both of these.
Yeah.
You put them through their paces. Let's take a listen, and on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more about what can improve these guitars and why people might give them a shot, even though they say Fender on them. So check it out. Okay, so there you have it. They're great sounding guitars. You know, before we actually came in to do this demo, Ted, who you'll see on our piano channel, which if you're not familiar, we have a piano channel and a sound lab channel for music technology and some other cool stuff. You should check that out. But Ted is also a bit of a guitar connoisseur.
Yeah.
He will geek out about any guitar, and he played it for a good bit, and he was like, this is a pretty good guitar.
Yeah, he's got a discerning eye, I think. I gauge his taste based off his favorite guitar, which is the Yamaha Red Label. He loves the FGX5 and the SX5, and so I know right now at least any guitar he's playing, he's comparing to those.
Well, and Ted, more than most people that I've known who play guitar, really has an eye toward value.
Yeah.
So he really likes guitars that are really, really good for the money, like based upon the price they
He's
are.
not a fan of the flash, you know?
Right.
So he'll pick kind of, I mean, he gravitates towards the Taylor 300 series and 400 series, and then the Martin 15 or 16. You know, it's like kind of that sweet spot. And I really think, I'm going to say it again, I think that if Fender could nail down their version of that, it would be great.
Yeah.
Even if they did it in Japan, because their Japanese electrics are awesome.
Yeah, they've got manufacturing there. It's a great point. It's a good idea.
Yeah, a Japanese-made $1,000 acoustic guitar that I think stripped back, even this, like, I don't hate it, but the fanciness just went towards exactly what you're saying, doing some Grovers on there. Nice all solid wood construction with a great finish. Mm-hmm. I think it's hard to lose on that one. But it's also changing the masses' opinion of Fender acoustic guitars, which is the harder part.
That is the harder part. So biggest complaints I have on these guitars actually resides with the guitar that I have in my hand. And you brought up before the demo that you don't think the open pore finish works on this. And I'm going to agree with you. I think I've played guitars with open pore finishes, and they're not all the same. Some, I think it rides that line correctly of being an extremely thin finish where it almost feels like raw wood versus where it feels like the wood wasn't even sanded. And this guitar, unfortunately, and it actually varies because I've played a number of these, different serial numbers, in other words. It varies. Some of these feel a little smoother than others. Like there's a rough spot right here on this guitar.
It's like the last place that you'd want it.
Yeah, it's right where your arm is. And then the other part that kills me on this has nothing to do with the finish necessarily. And I've spoken to it in videos before, is the corner of this binding is extremely sharp. And it's very noticeable on this guitar because it lacks finish. That one was bound, then finished, and the finish basically rounds it off. But listen, if this went through a very quick, just knock that down, it would be so much more comfortable to hold and to play. And so I think at the end of the day, Fender has an uphill battle because here's what Fender needs to do. Fender needs to produce a guitar in their Paramount series or whatever they want to call it that is probably going to lose money for them initially. In other words, they would have to make a guitar that really checks the boxes, that makes it a really fantastic instrument at a price that kind of seems crazy, where you're getting the quality of like a Taylor 300 series for $700-800.
Yeah.
You know, with the case and everything. The value then is fantastic. And then you also, and here's the potentially harder part, which has been proven by their custom shop stuff, you then have to convince the guitar buying public that you want to lust after this Fender acoustic guitar. Yeah. That it is steps above other things that you could buy at that price.
Yeah.
And those two things would help it to gain market share and have acceptance potentially. And none of that is like a sure win.
Yeah. I'll be your champion, Fender. I'll play your acoustic guitars. I will continue to do so.
Yeah, I was gonna say you already do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it drives me crazy that, well, and you know, we don't expect a pawn shop to be an expert on an acoustic guitar, right? But to put that guitar up for $150.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is indicative of how people see these. No matter how good the guitar is, they won't even try them.
Yeah.
Because I will say this, for all of my complaints about the finish and the feel of that, none of that exists on this guitar.
Yeah.
I think that is a really great feeling, great playing guitar. And most people wouldn't pick it up to try it.
Yeah. The sad part for me, I brought this up at the beginning, but I brought the parlor to a guy that was in our store, exactly what he described that he wanted. Loved the guitar, ready to go. I told him the price, and he was very confused. And I said, oh yeah, well they're nicely priced. I mean, they're
Yeah,
made
it's
in
an
China.
all solid wood instrument.
And he gave it back to me because he didn't want it because it was made in China. But if I bet you if it was $400 more, and I said, yeah, it's made in America, he would have taken everything. So that's another thing people got to get over. Like you said, I love American manufacturing and guitars. That's, you know.
Well, what if they move their manufacturing to Mexico? What if, if they couldn't do it in North America or in the United States, but they could do it in North America?
Yeah.
They already have manufacturing down there. I'm just throwing ideas out for you, Fender. And plus, having come through the pandemic and all of the issues with having things come through ports, doing it south of the border might be a better choice. Yeah. Fender.
Fender. Let's go.
If you want to write the check, it's McKee's, 2 E's. It's with a K, not a G. But yeah, I think there's opportunity there. I'd like to see them do some cool stuff with acoustic guitars. But yeah, I think they need to go back to the drawing board with these and sharpen the pencil and do some of the things because you and I know exactly what we're talking about when it comes to.
Absolutely. I will say
running a guitar company.
When they did reintroduce the stuff, they had a bunch of folk instruments with them.
Yes.
And those have
been great.
Great. I love the banjo because it's got a pickup in it.
Those are the Paramount Bluegrass series.
Yeah. The mandolins, great. And their, ukuleles always do well. But yeah, they have some other instruments that they've really not done a ton of marketing around. And they're nice. The banjo, the mandolin. If you're looking for something, they're nicely priced. Add a little flavor, and then just pick up a Paramount on the way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll end with this. I think the other problem facing the guitar market, this is not specific to these instruments, but it does affect guitars like this. Mm-hmm. More and more small mom and pop shops or independent dealers like us are closing. We're not going anywhere, by the way, but that's happening throughout the country. And I talk to people all the time who watch our videos and who call seeking advice. They buy guitars from us or they've got questions about guitars they're looking at. And the struggle is there's nowhere for me to go play it. Maybe there's a Guitar Center and their offerings are very limited or what have you. And for something like this, to find an audience, it would need to, if it was really, really good and a great value, despite what people's preconceived notions on it, you could only change those through education like a video like this or by getting them into people's hands. And with fewer and fewer stores out there and more online e-commerce ordering, that's an even more difficult thing. And so I kind of wonder what the future looks like because other than a homogenized guitar market where everything's basically the same, how do you get people to try something new when they can't try something new? Maybe that's one of the reasons we exist on this channel, is to just educate you on stuff you wouldn't know about so you can order it and try it. And if you don't like it, you get something else, but at least you gave it a shot.
Yeah.
So
that's
my 2 cents.
But we do have a few of these available. So
We do have a few of these available.
it's worth looking at some of the finishing options.
I really like the Dreadnought.
I like the Parlor a lot.
The Parlor's great. The OM with the Sunburst finish is really phenomenal, which is on our website right now. I like that guitar.
That one just feels a little bit
This one feels so much better.
Yeah.
Get the Dreadnought.
The Dreadnought's the way to go. I mean, it's spruce mahogany. It's a classic.
Yeah.
So, and I think the look fits on that one. The gloss, I like the headstock, open gears. What else could you want?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are interested in any of these guitars, go to our website, alamomusic.com, and check them out for yourself. You can also chat live. And I'd like to hear from people in the comments below. Have you tried one of these? What were your thoughts? What is your general opinion on Fender acoustic guitars currently or from the past? I'd like to hear your stories. A lot of us have engaged with Fender acoustic guitars over the years, and I'm sure there's a lot of opinions out there. Let's call it free market research for Fender to improve their acoustic guitar line. And if you're new to the channel, what should they do?
You're going to want to subscribe.
Yep. Turn on notifications, like the videos, do all that stuff, and then keep coming back. We'll keep doing guitar videos for you.